Hello and welcome to another episode of Distory with Kate and Kirk. Uh, my name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, your place for the latest hacks, snacks, and fun facts of the Florida theme parks, as well as California. Tonight's episode, we're going to be doing Pinocchio. So we're going to actually be going over to Disneyland with Kate, the Disney Cicerone, who is the smartest Disney historian that I know. Hey, Joanne, how are you? All right, let me set this up. And let's see if Kate's on. And I don't know whether or not, is Kate doing co-host or multi-guest? I don't know. Should we do it? Hang on, I'm going to ask her opinion first.
Hello.
Hey, silly question. Should we be doing co-host or should we be doing multi-guest? Did you guys try to download it?
Yeah, I wasn't able to download it. I was like, this is going to be too much of a headache. So, yeah.
As much as we like sharing the chats together, we will keep our chats separate.
Yeah, I think we just have to because of the way that TikTok makes it. So we can't, I wouldn't be able to download it if Kirk was hosting and he added me as a multi-guest. And it just gets very hard for us because we want to podcast it and put it on YouTube. So
yeah, we want to use it for other stuff. So yeah. All right. Welcome to another episode of Distory with Kirk from Walrus Carpet. Of course, as always with me is Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing really good. The rain came back, so the wildfires will go away. So always happy about that.
Naturally occurring,
less smoke in the air, less fires. It's always good.
Yeah, well, what's so crazy? Here's something that is interesting, right? This is just a life lesson in general. Control burns or just wildfires are important. It's important they're even pine trees. Pine cones will not open unless they're put under major stress. Meaning pine trees cannot reproduce. They cannot grow new without being put under immense amount of stress, basically through flames and fire. So brush and everything, debris, it's purposeful to have that stuff happen in nature, but then also, that's why we do control burns in a lot of places. So, yeah. But so think about that. You're like a little pine, you're like a little pine cone.
A little pine cone.
And the flames have to, I know it stinks. I know it's hot. I know you don't want it, but the only way you're going to open up is you got to be put under stress sometimes. So, little pine cone stories.
Just like the butterfly, who, if they don't struggle their way out of their cocoon, they can't ever they don't survive. Like they have to have the struggle. So,
yeah, think about eggs, right? If you're a chicken, you gotta peck your way out of there. Mama ain't gonna she's not gonna bash that shell in for you. You got to do the work.
That's right. And it's not really related to Pinocchio necessarily, but I love the life lesson of it. So it's great.
I don't know. He has,
we probably could.
I think it's not that much of a stress, right? Like or stretch, think about it, right?
There is a lot of struggle there. Mm-hmm.
There is. I mean, he tries to make a quick buck. Nay, gets thrown in a cage. In a life of servitude.
He's got cage, he's got salt mines, they've got, Monstro. So, yeah, there's all kinds of Pinocchio relevance there. So.
Yeah, right. So sometimes you got to get swallowed by a whale, kids, to really learn who you truly are.
That's right. Are you just going to let yourself be digested, or are you going to find a way out?
And you know what? It's okay to ask for help from a little green cricket, because honestly... Sometimes we all need a little bit of help. Oh, you've got a nice little magic band.
I know. Nice. It feels weird to wear it in my house because I'm like, I don't really need it, but I like it.
Yeah.
And Elliot gave me the little official conscience badge. It has Jiminy Cricket on the inside, which I love.
And always let your conscience be your guide.
Jiminy
my
Cricket's
house
one of my favorite
is in
characters.
Absolute disarray. We have all these things going on for Halloween. Also, just to put in context, I am working on my Mad Hatter hat, which was originally black, but I buy and make all my stuff from Goodwill or thrift stores. So this was really cheap. It was $10 for a giant hat.
That's great.
That's a pretty good Hatter hat. But I needed to paint it. So I'm already on my second coat. It needs a lot more, but It'll get there.
Yeah. It soaks it up pretty much. I've done that with hats before. Just like absorbs the paint and then you're just done.
Yeah,
So.
I've done this always because I'm not really great at sewing. I sometimes will use like this like thermal bond tape that you can iron on, which is really fantastic stuff, and it's really affordable. You can cut it to any shape. Like if you don't want to hem your pants, you can just buy this like fusing tape and then just iron it on. It's awesome. Saves you a ton of time, and it's really pretty permanent too. So a lot of times I'll do that to combine fabrics, but I don't like to sew. So a lot of times I'll paint. Like, so if there's like a little edge on something, like on a suit or a lapel, I might just paint it because the paint's 55 cents at Walmart.
Yeah.
And then I just need to paint just the edge for the detail. So yeah, make your own costumes, kids. It's much more affordable, put it that way, than trying to buy something. And usually they look better.
So true. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to see your costume in full when it's all complete. That'll be amazing.
Me too.
So, should we talk about Pinocchio a little bit?
Yeah. So, I'm gonna admit it. This is gonna be a multi-parter. There's no way we're doing this in an hour.
It's gonna have to be. I know.
It's okay. So, Kate put us into the Tiki Room for 6 episodes. I feel like I can put us in Pinocchio for 3 episodes. I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. And it's worth talking about. There's a lot to talk about.
So tonight's episode is on Pinocchio's Daring Journey, which is over in Disneyland, and it was not an opening day attraction. It actually didn't show up until 1983. When they redid Fantasyland, which is really cool. And the reason why I picked it is I don't know that much about it until now. It gives me an excuse.
Yeah.
I don't like to always just talk about things that I already know. It's more fun for me from a historical perspective to do the research. And by the way, I have to give you accolades. Kate found the document of all documents. It's like the Rosetta Stone of Disneyland. And I was nerding out on the littlest, simplest details, like ride occupancy, the amount of time it takes them to load, like these little innocuous details, just even the way that they framework it. So we will be able to show that. I think we'll probably get to at least the planning process, how does it come across, and then probably, I don't know if we'll board the ride, but we should probably get to the ride vehicles, and then that's probably, like, we won't get through the scenes of the attraction. I think that would... And probably
like
if we can get if we can get to the ride vehicles, I think we would have won tonight. So I think that's a good goal.
Yeah, and it's really amazing this to see that. So for those of you who don't know, and we'll show a lot more of it later, I found a document that was basically the original like work order for what they were going to do to make New Fantasyland in the 1980s. It's the actual document that they used, it was like their internal documents from WED of how they did that entire remodel of Fantasyland. And actually I have not just Pinocchio, I have all of them. And it's amazing.
I'll just... So it's a 125-page PDF, and it literally says Disneyland work copy, proposed New Fantasyland, Pinocchio ride, project description, scope level 1, WED Imagineering, issued April 10th, 1981, revised June 10th, 1981. There's some cells that they put in here just to give some commentary, but yeah, I mean, it's literally all the ride control equipment. I mean, it's the ride layout. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I feel like I had to show a little bit. Like, we're not lying. This is true. You'll see it.
Yeah, and you know how much I love primary sources, and it doesn't get much more primary source than that. That's pretty much it. So.
I even like just the letterhead. That how geeky is that? I'm staring at the font usage, and this was done with a typewriter. It's just. I can only imagine just, or like the most early nuanced of like Oki data printing, just,
It's so good.
I feel like no, you know what, dude, this is crazy. Hang on. You're going to love this. I'm just noticing this. This is done with pencil. The out edges of the outline is completely done with pencil and not done on a computer. You want to know why I know? Because the edges go off. Look. The edges are over. It's not like It's if this was done on a computer, that would be gone. But like somebody seriously used a straight edge to make the borders for. Oh, this is so cool.
I know. I found so many great documents. I'm going to share more with you later, but let's focus on Pinocchio tonight because we've got a lot to talk about. So,
Okay.
I actually read a really fabulous article from the Smithsonian Magazine about the origins of Pinocchio, and
The story.
The story, yeah, it comes from 1883, a children's novel called The Adventures of Pinocchio by Italian writer Carlo Collodi of Florence. So I have, I think, an original picture of what he looked like. So it was kind of like a series of stories that was published, and they were almost like cautionary tales for children. That's kind of what they were. He looks like this. This was the original Pinocchio. He's a little bit different than the one that we know, and we'll get into that. But he's yeah. So that was the original one. We're laughing already. What?
No, he looks great. No, and you know what it is? You know what it is? It's the whale. It's the monster of the whale that sends me.
And he wasn't a whale, he was a shark. So in the original stories, he was a shark. And that looked like that, apparently. Pinocchio's name comes from the combination of the Italian words pino and occhio. So pino means pine and occhio means eye. So pine eye is where Pinocchio comes from.
Oh, like wood eyes. Got it.
Wood eyes, yeah. And Geppetto is a diminutive of Geppo, the Tuscan pronunciation of Geppo, which means a log, a stump, block, stalk, or stub. So it's basically all just wood references is what their names mean. So yeah, Pinocchio.
So you're saying he's a blockhead?
Yes,
right.
and
Yes.
Geppetto apparently too. So Geppetto really, or not Geppetto, Pinocchio had a lot of really bad behavior in the original stories. And he, rather than being like charming and endearing, stop, I can't.
I'm sorry, but I just thought
here.
I just thought of in the subscriber note. There's a dad joke. Can I tell you it?
Yes, please.
I can't go on until I say this.
Okay.
I got the giggles and it's awful. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Why did Pinocchio cry?
Why?
Because of the puppet tears.
That's so bad.
All right,
Okay.
I got that out of
Okay.
me. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
better now?
Sorry.
Okay.
Now I can actually function. Sorry, dude. I can't look at this guy's face. All right. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Okay, so the original
Focus.
Pinocchio had such bad behavior, rather than being charming and endearing, which was it's meant to serve as a warning to children. Okay, so as Collodi originally intended the story, which was first published. This is 1881. I feel like there's a little discrepancy about when it was published, but I think it was over a couple of years.
Classic Disney using things that are out of copyright to just rip stories. Also, I'm fairly certain that if you go on the Riviera, they have a copy of this original Collodi version in the library. Underneath, there's like a museum piece, and it's actually not a facsimile. It's a legitimate piece. Because when Walt and his wife's name, help me out. Lillian. When they're overseas in like the Italian and the French Riviera, basically they went with not that much luggage and came back with like trunk loads of books. And it was like all these stories, and that was a really rough time. It's a very, very rough time in the Walt Disney Company. Like they thought they were going bankrupt.
He had like a mental breakdown, and so
he
needed to get away, like, or he
so
wasn't going to
goes
make
to the
it.
French Riviera and then comes back.
It's like what
The
we
company's
now do
going
for
down.
Disney. This is what we do for Disney now. Like, I can't handle life. I'm going to Disney.
Oh, the
where we get it
company's
from.
gonna go bankrupt. Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna go to Europe for like 4 months. I'll be back though. I'm sure everything will be fine. Peace, deuces. But luckily he found the Pinocchio story.
Yeah, and so Collodi, who originally wrote it, intended the story to be a tragedy, not a comedy or a cutesy tale. It was a tragedy, and it concluded with the puppet. I won't get into details of this, but the puppet was executed in the end, kind of
What?
by some animal friends, and it was he was. It gets detailed, but I don't think I want to get into it. It's kind of
Ooh.
graphic. So
Okay.
he does not have a good end. We'll just say that. We'll keep this family friendly and a little lighter. But
Oh man.
it is a tragedy in the end. So it's very much a cautionary tale of like, if you have bad behavior, this is what's going to happen to you. So yeah, not a good thing. So in 1940, then Disney second animated film was Pinocchio. So they had, remember, we had all the success with Snow White. Snow White was a smash hit. Everybody loved it. Everybody fell in love with the dwarves. They thought it was an amazing thing. But the unfortunate part was that there was some things that happened here with their development of Pinocchio and also with the timing of the way it was released, where it did not do well because it really was the beginning of World War II. And so they lost all of their Asian and European markets. They just couldn't have any of that. And that was 40%, 46% of their market was
Oh
over
wow.
there. So like they had it just the film was kind of doomed from the beginning. But Walt Disney even said that it was he loved it more than he loved Snow White. He thought more artistically done than Snow White, and he loved it. So I think that's why we could. Eventually, it did perform really well. They had a couple other releases after the war that really made up a lot of the money that they lost, and over time it was accepted as a success. But it was not successful when it first came
I
home.
I was listening to a TED talk the other day, and it was talking about how startups, what constitutes a successful startup, and the number one factor to constituting to success to a startup was timing. So I feel
Yeah,
like that was a byproduct too of Pinocchio here, just really poor timing. But
yeah.
the persistence ended up continuing on because it was still a great story, and as long as they still had it in distribution, it still was able to be a success over time.
Yeah, it was a $2.6 million cost, and they lost $1 million on it when it first came out. Like it was a
Wow.
huge loss, massive
Wow.
loss.
That's unbelievable
But
to think of the timing of how much that
yeah,
film cost to make, even.
yeah, it was tremendous amounts of money for that time. Because if you look at, okay, so I have pictures of the, oh gosh, let me get to the right place. I have pictures of the original when it came out in theaters. Let me flip this for you guys. It was 25 cents for children or 40 cents after 1 p.m. Adults were 40 cents, or on the weekends or Sunday and holidays was 66 cents. So that's how much it cost. It was released in the Center Theater in Radio City in New York, was where it was first premiered. And it was, I mean, you think of like if they made, even $1.6 million on it from the initial release at like 40 cents a pop, there's still a lot of people going to see that film.
That's insane how many people went to see it. Because
So
remember, that's not even, well, I guess box office sales are gross. That's not net. That's interesting.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. So really interesting kind of start to it. I have this. This is one of my favorite reads. If you haven't read it and you really want to know about Walt Disney, it's a big book. It will take you a while. It's got small font, but this is written by Bob Thomas, who actually knew Walt Disney and interviewed him and spent days with him. And the studio itself said, we need a biography. You have free range of interviewing anybody at the studios, any of the family members, and any of the archives. So he had primary sources to the extreme to write this book. Some people say like, oh, he's biased because he's only positive. I'm like, I think he writes some stuff in there that's also just like maybe not 100% positive. It's just like, this is what happened. So I love this biography. It's my favorite. I'll link it in the podcast show notes for you guys. It's called An American Original, Walt Disney, An American Original. by Bob Thomas. So in here, they do talk a little bit about Pinocchio and what went down with it. I love the development of the characters themselves, which I think are really, really fascinating. So, of course, in the original book, we talked about how Pinocchio was like cold and rude and ungrateful and like a brat, really. And he often repels sympathy and only learns lessons the hard way. Well, this doesn't really represent Disney Studios and what they wanted to show to the world. So they in the summer of 1938, the story team were trying to figure out what they wanted to do with Pinocchio, and they ended up making him like almost too helpless and far too often easily led astray by deceiving characters. So they decided to, because he was kind of like almost like a one-dimensional character, they were going to surround Pinocchio with an intriguing, flamboyant characters. That was their goal. So, and the most important was Jiminy Cricket. But in the book, the cricket only played a really like brief role as admonisher of the errant puppet, only to be rewarded by being crushed under Pinocchio's foot. And then I think he came back as a ghost. So he really was like not beloved by Pinocchio. He was like, get out of my way, kid.
Hi, diddly dee. I just stomped out Jiminy. Also, time out real quick. Somebody asked about cost here, so I just did a quick 40 cents in 1940 was worth roughly the equivalent of $8.48 today. So
that's kind of like a movie ticket.
Yeah, so it's not that, honestly, the ticket price is not that different from what it is today, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so Disney himself dubbed the cricket Jiminy, so that's where we get the name Jiminy Cricket, because it was an unnamed cricket in the Pinocchio books, and they made him into a character that would try to guide Pinocchio through all the right decisions. So once the character was expanded, a lot of people, the early concepts had him depicted as like a realistic cricket, like because that's what they did at Disney Studios. They brought in real live animals and they like sketched them and made them look very, very real, like Bambi, right?
Yeah.
But he looked weird. Like he had toothed legs and waving antenna, and Disney was like, we need something that's more likable. So Ward Kimball, if you remember Ward Kimball, we kind of know him as like Disney's railroad guy, right? He had Grizzly Flats Railroad, which inspired Walt Disney's railroad in his backyard. But he was also an animator, and he had spent so many months animating 2 sequences for Snow White. There was a soup-eating musical number and a bed-building sequence in Snow White that I think never made it to the final film. They all got cut, but he had spent months of his life on these sequences. And he was actually about to quit Disney because he was so upset that his work had gotten cut. But then Disney rewarded him for his work by promoting him to the supervising animator of Jiminy Cricket. So when he made it, I love how he describes him. He described Jiminy, as a little man with an egg head and no ears. And he said Jiminy was a cricket because we called him a cricket. That's what Ward Kimball said. So he didn't look like a cricket at all. If you look at him, he's like, he got no cricket in him. But they say if we call him a cricket, people will believe it. And sure enough,
he's a cricket.
They did. He's a cricket.
Well, I feel like Jiminy Cricket, think about this, right? How many times people have reactions now, like things are public now where you would just assume that Jiminy Cricket was always Jiminy Cricket. I like knowing that they despise the original Jiminy Cricket. It's like when they first put out Sonic, the public eye was like, he's horrible. Like, please redo everything, right? Yeah. And they redid the entire film sequence, replacing that character. Now, we didn't get to see what the original Jiminy Cricket looked like, but I'm sure he was the Sonic of the 1940s.
Yeah, I did try to find it. It doesn't seem to be very widespread.
I bet it's in when you get your archivist, that's one of your first things to do is go into that archive Jiminy and be like, now that's a cricket. Not a good looking cricket, but definitely not lovable.
Yeah, because I do have some original concept art from Jiminy when he was being developed, but it is the Ward Kimball version. So this is from the Walt Disney Family Museum. some of the model sheets and the original sketches, but you can see we've definitely gotten the egg shape by that point.
I mean,
So
yeah, I mean, if you think about Hopper from Bug's Life and the way that he's shaped, like at least the abdomen part of Jiminy is pretty spot on. Just the
yeah,
head, because the head structure is like you know, crickets are crickets are the Brad Pitt of bugs because they have great bone structure. Even though they don't have bones, look at that jawline on a cricket. They're like really sharp jaws. You know what I mean? Let me look up a cricket real quick.
I've never thought about that about a cricket, so I don't think I'll ever look at them the same. Oh my gosh! Oh,
Hang on, I need like a.
Victoria says the live action one looks like an edamame. That's true. That's kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah. It's very strange.
um. Okay, while you look for that, I will mention that Ward Kimball did make a. Oh, here. So, because of his contribution for Jiminy Cricket on his number 5 engine in Disneyland, the Ward Kimball, he does have Jiminy up there on the light. Oh,
I mean, I see the resemblance. That's. I don't know how it's tough to be a bug. I mean, that's more of a grasshopper than a cricket. Crickets are actually pretty nasty. I'm really thinking grasshoppers. Sorry, my bad.
I think of the ones that are in like not Bugs Life. This Tough to Be a
Yeah,
Bug
I
show.
mean, they're grasshoppers. They're not crickets. He looks more like a grasshopper than a cricket.
Yeah, he
Jiminy
does.
grasshopper.
Because he's
Crickets are
green
nasty.
too.
Yeah, he's green too.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
He's more of a grasshopper than a cricket. My
Put
bad.
him right here.
Yep.
So
It's tough to be a bug when you get completely misidentified. Oh,
so we good? So the Brad Pitt insects we need.
look, this is what we call clippable pieces of the show that you can take and repost, and people are like, "What are they talking about?
What?
We need to go to the long
I
form
know.
content. You know, this is the clippable
Yes.
stuff."
Yes. I know. I need to do more of that. Now I have more time, so I will. So let's see. Where was I? So Pinocchio, we already talked about. He was a boy who was easily swayed by bad influences, and rather than a determined delinquent, that's how Disney kind of portrayed him. But I love how it says this is from this Walt's biography. They say the interplay between him and Jiminy worked perfectly, although no one ever solved the fundamental problem of a hero with no will of his own, which is I think is a really interesting statement. He just kind of like goes where the wind takes him and then lies. Really
Yeah.
interesting character, which is why people, it says he's literally a puppet who is alternately drawn between good and evil. Hence, he could never match the human appeal of Snow White. That's at least this author's take. That's why people maybe didn't love Pinocchio quite as much as they did Snow White, because he was harder to connect to as a main character.
Yeah. I mean, I felt the same way of Dear Evan Hansen. Great music. He's not a good dude. Evan Hansen,
Yeah.
not a good dude. So, but great,
I haven't
still
actually
great
seen
play.
that.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've heard all the music from it, but I haven't seen
yeah,
it.
the music's lovely. But then when you watch the actual play, you're like, oh, dude, he's like, it's hard to connect. It's hard to
Yeah,
actually connect with pretty much anyone, and it just gets worse and worse as the play goes on. And you're just like, oh, I don't want him to win. Like, I want him to change, but he's not changing. It's
Yeah.
not good. There's like no
You know, it's like
resolution.
I feel like in Pinocchio, I connect more with Geppetto, maybe just because I'm a parent, but I feel like Geppetto really is like this, like, he has this dream that he just wants so badly, but he feels so lost and sad that it could never come true, you know?
Yeah.
He just wants a real boy of his own. He wants like a child. And like that, I feel like that's where that human connection really comes in. Because otherwise it's just like Pinocchio making really stupid decisions and us like yelling at the screen, like, what are you doing? Like, go to school. Don't do that.
Yeah.
He's gonna
Well, I
get
mean,
you. What are you doing?
he
Stop lying.
clearly is made of wood. You know, he's got no thoughts in his head.
Blockhead.
Blockhead.
Something else that was interesting about the film, I only see a few more things about it so we can get onto the ride, but it was known for its had very special effects. Basically, it had groundbreaking. It says groundbreaking achievement in the area of animation. So it gave realistic movement to vehicles for the first time in animation, machinery, and natural elements such as rain, lightning, smoke, shadows, and water. So
They did a really nice job with the structure of them throughout that entire film. Even like the Blue Fairy, the way that she like cast her spell, or not spell, whatever. So she's
wish,
like a witch.
grants her wish.
Grants her wish, right?
Yes. I know you meant. It's fine.
Right. Sorry, Muggle. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Spooky season. So.
Yeah. No, it's the texture of that. That's the only way I can say it. It feels multi-dimensional versus other films around that time period. You know, I mean, I still think about this. The reason why Disney was so successful is because they were constantly innovating and always doing something that other folks weren't. It didn't always work, but if you think about Fantasia even, right? That huge blunder of trying to have all these different cinemas to basically install a Philharmagic style arrangement in the seats so that you can smell and feel and like that is so revolutionary. It wasn't ready and it failed, but they're never afraid to take creative risks. Even and in the 1940s, who was doing this? And like who did a full feature animated film prior to this? It was only them with Snow White. And like what adults would go see that? Well, everybody was wrong that criticized Walt Disney. It was so
well, and the Fantasound, it cost $30,000 to install in each theater. $30,000 in the 1930s. Like that is a tremendous amount of money. So, and then Disney hired and trained all of the like people who did all of the effects. So it cost a lot of money. So it was a little, maybe not a great thing. So I will say too about the special effects. They really gave a lot of depth to the ocean, and the animators put more detail into the waves and the water surface in the foreground and put less detail in the surface moved further back. And then it says after the animation was traced into cells, the assistant animators would trace it once more with blue and black pencil leads to give the waves a sculptured look. But the splashes were kept impressionistic to save money. But the water is amazing. Like I was watching that scene the other day and I was like, even to today's standards, this looks really, really good. Like they did a fabulous job for early animation for all the water. And they said, Ollie Johnson remarked, I think that's one of the finest things the studio's ever done. As Frank Thomas said, the water looks so real, a person can drown in it. And they do. I love that quote. So, yeah, they won the first animated feature to win the competitive Academy Award, winning 2 for Best Music, Original Score, and Best Music, Original Song, When You Wish Upon a Star, one Academy Award. So, even though it wasn't like, it was kind of a box office like disaster, they learned a lot. They innovated in animation in this film, like tremendous amounts. And they also had that amazing music for When You Wish Upon a Star. So, oh, and Thurl Ravenscroft was Monstro, by the way. So,
really,
our good friend Thurl Ravenscroft.
Wow.
Yep.
Man, the gift that keeps on giving.
Just in every single attraction we do, he's there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're yes, and we're gonna name, of course, giant legends as we get closer and closer to actually talking about the ride, with Bruce Bushman integral to this one as well. So
yeah, for sure. And another voice that was going to be in the film was Mel Blanc, who is best remembered for voicing a lot of the Looney Tunes characters and Merry Melodies. He recorded the voice of Gideon the Cat. Now, if you think of the film Gideon the Cat, he was decided later on that he would be silent except for some hiccups. So the hiccups that you hear him do, I think maybe one hiccup, and also some in deleted scenes, that's Mel Blanc. So like a huge, gigantic name in voices in cartoon animation just got cut from the film and was never used because the character became silent.
Yeah, it all depends on what they're going for, you know? I mean, that happens so much in film. You know, things
Yeah.
get cut.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Things end up on the cutting room floor all the time and still do. Like, I don't know if you've watched, I think we've talked about this. If you ever watched the making of Frozen 2, that's one of my favorite things to watch on Disney Plus because it's amazing to watch their creative process and how much they toss out and change. And even like the last minute, they're rearranging things and watching all those creatives come together. It's just brilliant. So, highly
It's
recommend
also
that.
interesting, the person who has like the ideation of something, how they view the final product, because the initial start to the completion is so dramatically different. I remember I was watching one time George Lucas, he was watching like the prequels or something, and he was just like, this is trash. Like all of this is, like he hated it. And they were like, it's fine, George, it's good enough. And he's like, will never I will never forget how bad this is.
Yeah. I
I'm
feel like
like,
I
dude,
remember him
it's not.
talking about that too. Like about the
Yeah.
spaceships and stuff. He's like, this looks so awful. Yeah.
But I think that, you know what? I will be honest, as a creative, and you understand this, or as an artist, or, you know, as a writer, there are times where we despise our creation. And where everyone else can find beauty or enjoyment, it's like, so bad.
You can only see the flaws and you're like, you pick it
Right.
apart.
Right,
Yeah.
because we're so particular, and nothing in life is perfect, and it's
Yeah.
great to you know, remind yourself
I,
that.
I want everything to be perfect. I am a recovering perfectionist. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm okay with imperfection now, but man, most of the time. Tell you, recovering. So, so that's most of the movie. There's so much more to the movie, but we just want to make sure that we're not just parking on the movie because we want to get to the parks. 'Cause that's
Yeah,
where we're at. So,
yeah. So, can I take the reins for a hot second?
yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
sweet. So, this attraction was potentially going to be planned to be an opening day attraction, but just in terms of timing and budget, they started working on some of the ride vehicles even and some of the props, but then they ended up just shelving it and instead creating a theater instead. Hang on, let me get to the. I'm jumping a little bit ahead,
Yeah,
but
there's a few more things that are before that, but that's okay.
yep, yep. I'm jumping ahead just a little bit. So ends up being a theater instead, and eventually the ride gets there. But they end up creating this in Tokyo. So Tokyo Disneyland actually gets a Pinocchio Daring Journey first. It's a huge commercial success, so that's why in 1983 we end up actually getting the it's basically like a reimagining of Fantasyland with a couple of additions. And the major one for us that's important is replacing that Mickey Mouse Club Theater with this attraction, which there's a lot of concept art I want to get through as well, but let's start there.
So before, way back in 1955, before 1955, when they were figuring out attractions for the parks, and I did do a TikTok about this. The Alice was going to be a walkthrough, which we won't get into because you're not going to do Alice today. But on the bottom of this is actually, you can see, oh gosh, let me flip it for you. You can see that there are the words Pinocchio walkthrough. It's at the very bottom there. So there was going to be a Pinocchio walkthrough attraction, or at least planning and development at some point. Now, I have not found a sketch like this one. You can see, like, it's the whole thing is kind of just drafted out, and you can see all of Alice here, but they don't have the Pinocchio one. But they did do some planning for a ride that was for Monstro, which I'm guessing you some maybe hopefully have some of the concept art you have. Do you have
I
that?
do, yes, correct.
Okay.
So I was gonna now is when I'm gonna introduce our good friend Bruce Bushman. So
Okay, great.
we know Bruce Bushman from a previous episode, so let's look at Bruce again. When we were talking about Dumbo and the teacups. So you guys may or may not remember when we were doing Dumbo. These pink flying elephants was a Bruce Bushman concept art, as well as. Do I have the teacups on this one, or is it not?
I found it in a McCall magazine ad. So
Hang
look.
on. I have it on. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's the one
I
I
have
was
it.
looking for. There you go. Perfect. So, and then I'll go back to a very, very early version of what a Pinocchio ride was going to be, which you may notice that this is not a walkthrough. And also, this is not a dark ride in the traditional sense. This is a sketched out version of a boat ride. So I even have a pre boat ride one. And then there's also, here's another, that's the non colorized version. And then we also have a Peter Pan's Flight as well over here.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing.
But yeah,
This
it
is
kind of looked like this was just going to be a boat that goes through. I don't know how it was going to come out of the mouth. Where do you enter? It's a better question. And then
Yeah, it was
I
like
have that.
almost like a log flume ride. It was gonna be like go down and splash. Yeah.
Yeah, the way that the caption on here says water chute ride lets voyagers ascend the interior of Monstro the whale, the menace of Pinocchio, enjoy a breathtaking slide down his tongue into a pond.
This one's almost like backwards from
Yeah,
that.
it's like
It's
like what
you're
is
going
that? Like a
into it.
wave? You're right, right. It's like a wave
It's like you're
behind
going
them.
into it instead. Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't get a boat ride, but we do get the land vehicle version, and
Well,
you know what's so
we do get Monstro.
you do get Monstro and you do get a boat ride. That's in what do they call that?
Storybook Land
Storybook
Canal Boat.
lands, canal boats. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
it was originally Canal Boats of the World, and you go in Monstro's mouth and just kind of like then his mouth just kind of disappears and you go out the back end. But this is what he originally looked like, and his eyes blink and he squirts like water out the top of him, and he still does. He looks a little bit different now. That was his original look, and now he's oh gosh, I don't know if I have well, I have another vintage look of Storybook Land Canal Boats. I'm not sure I have a new one because he looks a little bit different now. His teeth are a little bit different, and he looks a little friendlier, I guess, a little less rough around the edges. He's been polished
They gave
for
him
current crowds.
veneers, I'm assuming,
Little
or some
facelift.
giant whale whitening strips.
Yeah. So anyway, so he did end up somewhere, and that was pretty much all we got of Pinocchio was that in those early times. So yeah, I wish I had a picture of that. I thought I did, but I do not. And then there was, do you have concept art for the Dumbo Circus Land?
I don't. But
Okay.
hang on, quick fun little piece. Look, it's Welch's grape juice bar. It's down here.
Yeah. Yeah, that got removed in the Fantasyland remodel.
Right, exactly.
Keep
Okay, you
haunting
have
us. Keep
concept art
popping up.
of Dumbo Land.
Dumbo's Circus Land was an idea that they threw out in 1976 for Fantasyland because they're just recognizing by this point a lot of these original attractions, because they were made very cheaply and very quickly, they were used to doing set design, right? They were movie creators, film creators. They were not theme park creators, when this happened, when Disneyland was first built. So a lot of the structures were crumbling and falling apart, and only like 50 coats of paint were holding it together. And they really just were looking at like, what are we going to do? Because we can't keep operating this. It's not safe. It's not going to last. We need to figure out something for Fantasyland. So in 1976, there was a proposal to remove a lot of that area and turn it into Dumbo Circus Land, which would have had a couple of things in it. And I do have some concept art for that. And this is the Pinocchio element to it. Would have been this ride here. This is a Pinocchio ride that would have been in this Dumbo Circus Land, which of course you can see later. They did use this concept for what is it called in Disney World? Storybook Circus?
Storybook treats.
Storybook.
Or are you talking about
The
circus
whole
souvenirs?
area.
Big top. Oh,
The
that's
Dumbo area.
Storybook Circus is the name of the whole entire Dumbo area.
So this was actually the concept. This was the model for it. which
Oh.
looks very similar to what we ended up getting in Disney World. They just basically borrowed that concept for this, or for that, this concept for that. You know what I mean? So this is, they also were going to have a Mickey Mouse, what was it called? Mickey's Madhouse was another attraction they were going to have, which I think was like a theater. So it looked like this on the outside. And then they were going to have, this is what it looked like. It's based off of this. I think this is, looks like from a, they had like cartoons playing in it.
And you did get a Mickey Mouse theater.
In Fantasyland?
Yep. It was over here. This I have an original.
Well, that was
picture
before
from.
this, but yes, we did have that. Yeah. So, but the Mickey's Madhouse was going to be part of this concept, but it just kind of got shelved. They were also going for the Pinocchio ride. It was just more of an idea than anything. They didn't have a ton of things planned for it yet, but they did plan, they were going to have Geppetto's toys were going to be what you rode in through the ride. So instead of what we have currently, we were going to be in toys, and that actually
Yeah, I thought that was
happened.
really cool.
And so a lot of this concept went into storage, and then they pulled it out when Tokyo Disneyland was being developed and started working on it for that. So I think that's all I have until we get to New Fantasyland. So
You know what? You just made me Google Tokyo to see if their ride vehicles are actual
they're the
toys
same.
or not. They're the same as
No,
what you.
they're the
Okay.
same as the ones. There's actually their entire attraction is almost 100% identical except for a few small things to Disneyland, because I watched it all the way through and I was like, this is pretty much like being at Disneyland.
Oh, cool.
There's a couple effects that are different, which we'll talk about later. But like the Lampwick with like holographic effect that's in Disneyland, they don't have that there. He's just more of a static figure. So there's a couple things that are different, but they're very, very similar.
So I'm gonna go to an artist. I'm gonna go to Gustaf Tenggren. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. I
So
want to hear what you
I
got.
don't know. I know you're gonna have way more than me on this stuff, but I do want to show artists that worked on not only Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, worked on Pinocchio, worked on Bambi, but this is kind of where, worked on the films, and we get kind of the set design within the animation of where we're going to start our story of Pinocchio's daring journey. So this is an original cell. You can actually see Tenggren's little signature up there. But yeah, I mean, we start basically in Stromboli's theater and then head on inside for the attraction. Now, I just wanted to give you the concept of that before we even get to the outside section. Do you want to do parts of the planning process of it first, or show a little bit of the outside and do the planning
Yeah, I mean, I think
next episode? I don't know.
I've got some more stuff for Gustav and his
Do it.
connection. I will say he was the chief illustrator on Snow White. So we showed when we did the Haunted Mansion, we showed when one of his concept art for Snow White was her running through and all the scary trees were reaching for her, right? Because that's where we get the scary trees that reach for you in the Haunted Mansion is not only from Snow White, but also from Gustaf Tenggren. So he, Tenggren, I'm going to say it right. He was a Swedish designer, and his connection to Pinocchio was so strong that there is a statue of Pinocchio built in his honor in the town in Sweden. That's so creepy. Oh my gosh. I can't. I'm just gonna drink water.
Sorry. It's Halloween time, dude. You have to use the Halloween effects. Don't you know that? Like, this is what TikTok Live is all about.
I know. I know. So the other thing that is you might know his work from, especially if you're a fan of the Little Golden Books, because he illustrated 28 of them, including the
Oh, I
Pokey
love
Little
them so
Puppy.
much. They're so good. And they brought them
Pokey Little
back, too.
Puppy. Yeah, the Saggy Baggy Elephant, the Shy Little Kitten. Those were all his works. Those were all his illustrations. The Big Brown Bear, The Little Trapper, all the little like Goldman books that we know from way back when. He's the one that illustrated them. So, yeah. And so his, yes, I agree we should go to the actual like construction of this for Fantasyland. But I will mention that his art, we got to show a little bit of his art because he shows a lot of kind of the early concepts of Pinocchio when they're just like, he looks too wooden, like people can't relate to him. He looks like this. This was from his concept art. It's actually a little bit frightening.
Yeah, his face is that's a nope.
Yeah, and but I love this one. I don't like Pinocchio in it, but I love the blue fairy. She looks very real, like human versus Disney.
Oh my gosh, that Pinocchio is horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, Geppetto is also no peach either.
No. He has a very specific style, this is
the Pinocchio one. No, Pinocchio.
Here's one. Pinocchio. Here's him with his good old pals that are helping him through life.
Hi, diddly dee.
And then I love this one's in the snow, which I love, and you can see he's signed it at the bottom too. I actually love this aesthetic.
That's a really, really cool set piece.
Mm-hmm. And then I love this one's emotional. Like I looked at this one, I was like, oh my goodness. It's very evocative.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, he really, yes. And look, that's like the Snow White trees all over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He knew scary trees. He could do that. And this one's him underwater. You can see the fishes, walking with the fishes. But he definitely looks very different. And this one's inside the whale. I think that's most of them. And then...
Can we chat about, was that an Italian accent?
No, I wasn't trying to do the accent. It was just the words. I don't do accents well, so I don't even try.
Because I was going to say...
No, it was not an accent. Because I know I can't do them. But the one that I think is most important for us to look at, and we need to talk more about the development of the actual area, but this is where we get the actual outside facade. I don't know can you pull up a picture of the outside facade? Do you have one handy?
Of just the actual, what it looks like now?
Yeah, on the outside.
This?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where we get that from, was this Gustaf Tenggren art. And
yeah, I mean, that is,
Stromboli
that's straight Stromboli theater.
You can see the thing at the top too, the little like guy on a horse. That's also
he's right
in
up
the top.
He's
I
right
think
up
it's
here.
cut off there for you, but
just barely. He's right up there. Yep.
But that's where we get that design from, of the architecture, and it's a specific type of architecture that's called Tyrolean architecture.
It almost gives me a like a Tudor Alpengeist kind of feel to it as well, like very Germanic, like snowy.
Elliot, I'll flip it here. Elliot actually pointed out, he's like, why does he have a theater? Doesn't he have like a little like cart that he goes around in and like collects, does shows? I'm like, yeah. Well, I said, well, that's why this is concept art. This is Stromboli has an actual physical theater. And it says, the other side, it says Stromboli, I zoom out. It says Plaza Stromboli. So it's like his own like plaza in this little Italian town.
Well, he was making bank.
Mm-hmm. So,
or as
really
the kids say, he was getting that bag.
Yeah.
Also, side note, because I just want to do this because we're already outside. Of course, my eyes went straight to the weather vane, and I noticed that there was a whale weather vane.
Monstro.
And then I also love that.
I have a good picture of it.
I love weather vanes. And look, there was a Monstro pin. They sold a Monstro pin too with the weather vane. I love that.
Isn't that great? So, if we're going to talk about development, what time is it? 6:25.
It's not.
Okay.
Can I tell you?
That's where we got.
What time it is? It's called Wrap It Up, Kate, because we ain't gonna make it. We're not getting
that's
even
where we're at.
close to. Yeah, that's okay
But
though.
We knew.
We knew.
This time would come, and I think, we have so much in the development of New Fantasyland to get into. Some really great quotes from Tony Baxter, who is largely in charge of that project, and all the development of it, including that original document that is from WED about it. So I think you're right. This is where we should pause, and that's where we'll pick up next week, getting into the development of New Fantasyland and some things that they had planned in that document that didn't actually happen too. Some things that changed. So I don't know if you've read all 170 pages of it.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I did read
time.
a good solid 45 pages, so that's pretty good.
I was up
Pinocchio's
to like 4 reading it because I just didn't. I was so excited.
There is a lot. There is a lot in there, which is awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's where we should pause in our Pinocchio journey and then come back next week. I do want to mention before we completely wrap up everything that I am still doing my free giveaway for all of my subscribers. I have a I Speak Fluent Distory sticker, which is, I'll put it here. It's a nice little holographic one, but is very much like the shirt that I'm wearing, but just in a little sticker form. So that is free for all of my subscribers. It's in my subscriber note how to get that. So if you are not a subscriber, but you still like a sticker, DisneySisterOwn.com, or shop in my store link. Same is a place where you can get shirts. And then Kirk has such amazing shirts too. You've got hundreds of amazing shirts on walrusscarp.com.
Yeah, hang on. I'm time out. We're not going to talk about me. We're going to talk about you because I wanted to take a moment because I was on for quite a long time last night, and I just wanted to shout out and give accolades to both yourself and Jackie. Amazing Mom Street USA last night, giving all the parenting advice, but then also just like trip planning for going to either World or Lands, and it was interesting. It was timely. You guys kept a really good pace. You have great rapport. It's a really well executed show, and it's very thoughtful. And you don't really see that type of show, and certainly there's not a lot of shows on TikTok anyway. So to me it's groundbreaking, and I just wanted to give you guys all the credit because it was awesome. You guys did great.
Oh, thank you. That was fun. It was so hard to not talk more about the resort history, and I was like, hold it in, Kate. Like, we're gonna.
Yeah, well, I was in the comments like, talk about the dig site history. It's like, I got problems. So
I know. It's hard for me too. It's hard for me to not say all the things, but that show has its own, its own audience.
It has its thing.
Its own thing. And
it's
but I did create something special, which I've shown you, Kirk, already, but not everybody else has seen it. I created a little something based on our last series we just did on the Tiki Room. I made a really fun shirt that is now available. So if you would like to get one, it has one of the original names they were considering for the Tiki Room, the Enchanted Tiki and Bird Room, featuring Disney's Legends of the Enchanted Tiki show. So you can have your little Barker bird and some Dole Whip and one of the flowers that croon. And a little special. That was really fun to make.
I really, really love that one because it's like, me, deep cuts. Like, how many people are going to really appreciate that?
They're
That's the audience that you want. Yeah, you're like, no, I didn't.
It was intentional. I knew what I was doing.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
It was really fun. So I'm hoping to make one maybe from some of the little things we found out in each series. I thought maybe I'd make something for each one. So we'll see how it goes. But it'll be fun.
All right. And because we're doing this, they came.
Oh,
they
wow.
finally came.
Oh my gosh.
It's got the etched walrus in the actual corner of it.
Look at that.
And you should be happy because this is actually the Disneyland stretching room that's on the side of these ones. And then purple lenses, polarized, purple frames. They're not on the website yet. I know everybody's like, but literally our order just came. The completely covered premium bars. Etched again on the back. But those, those ones. You know and love those. And these are the ones that everybody's been asking and dying for. Is them pink greens with green lenses as well. And there's a little etching on there. But yeah,
that's
and then
great.
It's got so the goal is to get them on the website by tomorrow. But yeah, super stoked. I was like so nervous. I'm like, when are they gonna come? Oh, I have to pay duties? Awesome. Great.
Oh, no.
Cool. Oh, they're stuck in customs? Oh, cool. Awesome. These are the fun things about owning a business and having no idea what you're doing and learning intercoms. And I mean, I said to Mel, I go, I don't know what she goes, well, this didn't happen last time. I'm like, dude, it's been like 7 orders that we've done with manufacturers overseas. Like, we really don't know what we're doing still.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't imagine. Like, I'm not that level yet. I'm still like, I'm still US based.
This is...
Oh, God.
Hey, you'll get there.
I know. Well, I'm
like
making
your books.
I'm working
you might be
trying to get those out.
That's going to be the next. Here's the thing that I always think is interesting is the more unique the product, the more that it speaks to you and your truth and to your community that you fostered. Like, that's why that tiki shirt is so good. That's why it's so good. And even the I Speak Fluent Distory is so good because it's
that one.
It's very specific. Favorite. It's very niche. I mean, you're just getting better at this. So,
Hopefully going in the right direction. We'll see. I feel like it's that way with content too. When you create content, it's just like it starts off and like you're still trying to find your voice of who you are and what you want to be and do, and like you just have to keep going. So anybody who's maybe new at that, just keep going, because you only get better with time, and you really figure out what your audience wants, but still being true to yourself and who you are. And I feel like it's starting to hit a stride for me, but I'm like a year and a half in from really focusing on content creating. I've been doing Disney Sister Own since 2020, but so to be encouraged.
I used this quote from Walt Disney on my Instagram story because it just popped up randomly. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing, and I think that is fantastic. I think that's so appropriate and right, and I went on and just said, you're not going to be good at a lot of things. You're going to fail a lot, but just lean into your strengths and look for help in the places that you're deficient, and just don't quit on yourself. Just keep on moving. Yeah. Just like one little croc step at a time. Look, it's a little miniature croc.
I love that. Where'd you get that?
One of our one of Pocket Fam makes these or buys these doodles, who's on here quite a bit, but yeah, makes little, and it was
so cute.
Little croc foot.
Just keep moving forward, right? That represents
just
that.
Keep
and I always have this on my desk.
There you go.
That was the timing of that was crazy.
That is really the truth.
La 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 la
la la la la la. I love that. That's such a good play.
Well, anyway, so I really loved. I love that you chose Pinocchio because I've honestly been wanting to do a lot more research on it, and I just you just never do. It's interesting because Pinocchio in Disneyland, except for when it's really, really busy, it doesn't always have a very long line necessarily because it's just people kind of
See, This is the thing that hurts me to my core, but also excites me as somebody who will be going to Disneyland more frequently when things start kicking off, right? I just keep on thinking I love dark rides. They're my favorite type of attraction. So that's the whole purpose of why we're doing this episode is I just wanted to learn more about an attraction that I've ridden once. I absolutely loved. I had no idea why was nobody going on it. It was fantastic. I thought and even rewatching POVs, it's even better than what I remember. So I just don't get
pretty great ride.
Why it doesn't get, it's really well done. And it has multiple unique set pieces and effects, like the Pepper's Ghost. And they said it was a hologram. I don't know if I believe that with the donkey.
It is a hologram. It's a hologram.
Okay.
And you can see that in those notes of all
Okay.
those things. You'll see it in the 100 and whatever pages that week. But yeah, it's a hologram. And it's, if you watch it really carefully, like his ears like grow and you're like, what the heck? Like, I don't actually think I noticed that until I started doing this research that his ears grow. Like, how did I miss that? Because you just take it for granted. It's like, oh, it just happened.
It just happens.
Just
your ears
happens.
start
Sometimes
growing.
your ears just grow.
You know? Sometimes
It's creepy.
all this stuff is really creepy, you know?
I wasn't thinking it was gonna come out
For
of your
those that
mouth.
are listening, apparently I've turned into a candy corn with horns. So, you know, who
Candy corn
spits
horns.
delicious candy corn everywhere. I could also be. This is like film noir.
That's a little spicy.
Why do you?
Not gonna
you know
lie.
what, listen. Why? I'm gonna be honest with you. Why do your makeup in the future? When we're in the metaverse, you're just gonna put on a filter. You'll never do your makeup. Why bother?
I know.
Why bother?
did
Why
that the
even
other
get
day.
costumes? In the future, you're just gonna buy a digital costume thing that looks awesome, and you'll look like you're on fire, or you know, like you've got magical powers. That's what it's. We'll all be augmented reality. Welcome to the. What's this one?
The new world. New world.
Oh no.
This is a lot of you.
I mean, nobody needs this
I know
many
4
of them.
Kirks.
Which one do I look like? It's too many. Oh, wait,
Did they
hang
ever
on,
bring
hang
the
on. Why does
orange
it?
back, by the way? Did they? I heard rumors that they
No,
had the orange
no.
and then they didn't. Because
They
that
don't-
would have been
oh.
perfect for Orange Bird. Okay. What the heck?
Sorry, I have to use these effects. Such is life.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah. Well, you know, and they also just released, for speaking of Disneyland, did you just see that they brought the tour back that you can go in Walt's apartment? And for the first time
that's
ever,
so cool.
you get to have like juice on his back veranda. And I'm like,
What kind of juice?
Like-
Is it orange juice? And do you get a robe?
I hope so.
And
I
do you
don't
get
know,
to
probably
talk to
not a robe,
construction
but
men?
maybe orange juice. I don't know. You could yell down at some cast members.
If
hey,
there's Welch's
how's it
grape
going?"
juice, I would take that too. You know?
I don't know. I just, yeah, it was like, I want to say 180. It was in the upper. It's like almost 200 for the tour.
But Morgan writes, in quotes, what kind of juice? Kirk's priorities. Yeah, okay. She said
Well, it
juice.
is.
I'm
It's
curious.
Walt
I'm
Disney's
curious because Walt,
apartment.
he drank juice.
He
That's what
drank orange
did.
juice. That was what he
That's
did.
what he did.
And he always went down to the Sunkissed house to get his fresh squeezed orange juice. And they're like, when they found out he was going into the shop to make his own, they gave him his own like juice machine so he could do it in his apartment. And he still didn't use it. He went down to the Sunkissed house.
Yeah,
'Cause that's what he loved.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not gonna go and do it. They're like, listen, you got to get out of the store, bro. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, beat it. I'm going in the
Yeah.
Sunkissed house. You know, I built this house. I'm going in
It's like, I'm going wherever I want. You
with
can't
the
stop.
robe. Like,
The robe.
Sir,
He'd be in a robe.
sir.
His orange, fresh squeezed orange juice. Later in the day, it'd be popcorn because he just
Dude,
loved his
now-
popcorn.
Yeah, I really don't. Did he go down and get popcorn daily? Because that's always been the reason why popcorn has been so affordable. Is it was like one of his favorite snacks, so they tried to keep that
Yeah.
in line.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was daily, but it was often. Like, it seemed to be one of his routines when he was in residence in Disneyland, from what I've seen. So,
Disney popcorn is so much better than Busch Gardens popcorn, and I like
Yeah.
Busch Gardens, and they have good price points, but so much better at
it's
Disney.
like Pop Secret, I think, is the who does it now.
Really?
Pop Secret.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
who
like on the
does.
side. The sponsorship's on the side of all the carts.
I do know that Super Pretzel did Sesame Place and also does Busch Gardens, and then also does Walt Disney World. His Super
Yeah.
Pretzel, which is weird because the Mickey Pretzel should be
interesting.
better.
Yeah.
It's the only one that doesn't
Agreed.
have a texture of a regular Super Pretzel. Because if you remember, they used to have a Simba Super Pretzel, and it was delicious. It was the best version of a themed shaped pretzel in Disney World, and then took it away from us, and we're like,
I remember
yeah,
that. It's an
can't eat
Animal
a lion.
Kingdom.
Yeah,
I
it was
remember having the
right
Simba
outside
pretzel.
of Everest. I think, what was
Well,
it?
there was another
Thirsty
one in.
Trek
It was outside of the Kilimanjaro
Safari.
safaris too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The produce stand would have them as well.
I remember eating one like right after it rained. I don't know from where in a memory, but the I know you guys all really want to know that. But I
What kind
have
of
to
rain
say,
was it?
Florida rain. It's not Oregon rain. I'm kind of hoping that I can go on that tour to the Walt Disney apartment on my next trip in November. But I know I can't live stream
Tried
it
it.
because it's a behind the scenes tour.
You have to book that like
I
now.
know. I need it.
Get
But
off this live stream and book it, Kate. What are you doing?
I know. I'm gonna have
It's
to
gonna sell
negotiate.
out.
Like it's my birthday present. I'm probably or like my Christmas/birthday. I'm gonna have to negotiate. Like this is all I want for Christmas is to just go in Walt's apartment.
All I want for Christmas is juice.
And they let you take like 2 PhotoPass photos in it, so you actually get pictures of yourself in it.
Oh,
You
that's
can't
cool.
like you can't use your own phone, but they'll take PhotoPass photos. I'm like, I don't care how I get them. I just want to
Yeah,
want to be
that's
in
nice.
the apartment.
You should.
I want
You
to be
should.
in the room where it happens. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christina, listen, 190 to see Walt's apartment sold. 100%. It's
That's
worth
how
it.
much it is. It's like $200.
Yeah. But
Okay.
you get a tour of other things too. It's like kind of like a Main Street Walt's kind of footsteps tour, I believe. I don't think it's called that. I'd have to look. But anyway, you should come to Disneyland eventually. Someday. I won't put pressure on you. Someday. And come do that tour because you need to go too. Someday.
Someday. Yep, we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, Kate. I feel like that's enough. I feel like
Yeah.
we've covered it all. All right, so next week we will continue on our journey, our daring journey with Pinocchio, and we'll actually start talking about the design concept and the actual ride system itself, and then probably get through maybe 1 or 2 scenes, and then we'll finish it up the following episode. So you got 2 more parts to this coming for Distory on Pinocchio's Daring Journey. Thank you so much. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, your spot for the latest hacks, snacks, and fun facts, and of course, really geeky, nerdy, funny, happiness, thriving Disney or otherwise theme park clothing. Kate, what do you got?
Obscure Disney history and encouragement. So if you need a little dose of something
I
you've maybe
really
never
like
learned
that.
about Disney, but you also need a little lift, that's what I got.
That is,
Yeah, I'm
dude,
adding encouragement into it.
That's
Yes, it
a
is.
great tagline. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna change all the things.
Yeah.
not tonight.
So
Sometimes.
please make sure you go check out Kate's website, DisneyCicerone.com, and give her a like, follow, all that good stuff. And you can, of course, listen into this on a podcast version on Spotify and iTunes and wherever else you consume podcasts. And eventually I'll get to YouTube. I just am slacking horribly on any of the back ones of Distory, but I'll get to it. So
Yeah, I know. You just can't stand looking at my face.
it's no. You know what it is? There was a period where I was getting really, really good at doing all the distries, and especially when I had Tiki Room Radio too. And then I just fell into a rut because I started editing YouTubes, and I never edited YouTubes before. They take a really long time. So like to produce one
do.
now, but they've gotten better. So retention is the most important thing on YouTube. Click-through rate, so your thumbnail has to be good. So good thumbnail, number 1, good title, number 2, and then retention, so how long somebody actually watches an episode. So I found that you can actually see in your analytics when people drop out of watching or consuming or where they skip, and I use that to then go in and actually edit any of the new episodes. And I basically just cut out every single little bit of dead air, even if it doesn't make sense and it's like a non sequitur. Like I did a butterbeer review in the middle of Halloween Horror Nights. It made no sense. And I'm like, I really like this part, but it's got to go. So cutting room
Yeah.
floor. That's my
Yeah.
version of, that's my George Lucas. is butterbeer.
Well, yeah. It's what I do with the podcast too. If we have times when we're trying to look up a picture or something and it's just like kind of dead air while we're trying to find something, or those episodes where we had that like ridiculous delay, that was the worst, because then I'd feel like had like this 10-second delay between hearing each other. And go out and edit all those things. And now I'm teaching my son how to do it because he wants to learn. So I was like, here, you can help me edit this podcast episode. Sure.
That's
Life
cool.
skills, homeschooling.
You know, I think, these things are skill sets that in the future, they're going to be just a part of the norm and the course. And this is not that weird. I think any females who remember recording on like a handy cam or Polaroids, or like I remember my sister would record them like, dancing and lip syncing in their bedrooms with like a big old Sony Hi8, like this. There's nothing different.
Like, why are you saying females, Kirk? Like, why did you?
No, because my sister, I watched my sister, and like they would have sleepovers, and they do like vignettes, like little scenes, and it would be like one would be dressed up like a dude with like a fake drawn on goatee and like a baggy sweatshirt, and would be doing like a terrible like dude impression. It'd be like, "Yo, what's up?"
It's like early TikTok. That's all it is.
Yes,
it's like very
that's
early.
That's what
TikTok.
I'm saying. This is what there's nothing different. It's just the tech is easier and it's more accessible. So like I imagine our kids, they'll be doing like metaverse stuff, and that'll be like second nature. They're like, what do you mean you don't have like a hyper train that drives? Like, oh, I just made it in like 20 seconds. You're like, oh, cool, sweet.
Yeah.
Here I am still mailing letters. So whatever.
Oh, I'm firmly in that camp of like, I just ask my son to hook up things now. Like, when I'm like all the electronics, I'm like, I can do it. I know how to do it, but I'm like, he can do it. So easy. I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
And this is when you become outdated. We're seeing it happen before our very eyes.
I still do it. I'm still very technologically advanced. Clearly, I know what I'm doing. I have to do it for a living. So... But I let my son do it because I know he knows how, and it's good for him, and it's easier for me. You become outdated. Yeah, I'm a dinosaur in process.
You can recognize it and change. Just letting you know.
You wait till your kids are older. You'll know. Your kids aren't old enough yet.
They aren't. They do a lot of things already, which is pretty impressive. And everyone right now is making fun of us because they said we do a long, drawn-out goodbye. But that's who we are as people, because this is very conversational,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we have, like, the show, and then we get to, like, chat. And, like,
post-show.
Surely, like, this is when Kirk and I actually get to chat in the week, besides, like,
Yeah, it'll be like little messages about something. Oh, I found this. Oh, this is cool. Hey, did you know that you could do this? Oh, cool, awesome. Like, so we're always sharing that kind of stuff. But like in terms of actual conversations, like we don't like call each other like, yo, what's going on?
I do need to call you about some things, but I don't usually do that.
Well, if you don't call me like that, I'm not going to talk to you. So you need to come up with a voice.
Use my Italian accent. Hey, what's it?
Wait, what was your...
I didn't have an Italian accent.
Walk with the fishes. I think I'm going to give you an offer you can't refuse.
Not even good.
Walk with the fishes. It's sleep with the fishes, by the way, Kate.
Sleep with... I know. I was making... Okay.
It wasn't Italian. I don't know how to do an Italian accent.
I'm married to an Italian, and I am Italian, and I still can't do the accent, and that's where I am. Okay, you have to just admit when you're beat. You can't do it.
Yeah.
That's my limitation. I can't.
I am very serious about the voiceover work. It just wouldn't be voice acting. It would just be narration, and your narrations would be great. So lean into the strengths.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to see. Yeah, you never know. Christina's like, what? You mean you don't have nerdy conversations all the time? We do. We do have nerdy conversations.
We do. It's mainly in like
face-to-face.
It's in pieces, and it's mainly us sharing things that we found. So that's mainly how we converse. Is like, look at this.
It's like, look at
picture
this
document, this video.
This
it's mainly
facts,
that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not really like conversational. Like
it's like a Disney nerd sharing relationship.
Yeah. It's really. It's more of like a. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Anyway. My daughter called me a nerd today, and she had a pack of nerds from trick or treating. They had this like trick or treating event, and she was like, "Yo, Dad, if you ate these, then you would be eating yourself." And I was like, "What do you have? They're nerds." Cool.
Burn.
True. Burn. Burn. Got him.
I love that. Your girls sound like such a kick. I love it.
They are very, very fun. Very, very fun. So, yeah.
My 7-year-old challenged me to chess today. She almost won, and I'm like, that's bad.
That is.
She's good at it, though. So, all of my kids, they all know how to play chess, apparently. I didn't teach them. That was Elliot.
Queen's Gambit was an amazing, amazing series on Netflix, too.
It
I
is.
really enjoyed the way it was filmed, the way that it portrayed chess. It was really, really cool. I guarantee chess playing went up a lot after that series. And then
I
everyone
still think
gave
about
up.
her seeing things on the ceiling, like when I think about that.
Yeah,
Watches the
yeah.
chess
Well,
pieces while she's laying
well,
in bed.
don't you feel like that too sometimes? Is like when you're thinking, like you're seeing. I don't know. I'm a visual thinker, and like you can see it, but like sometimes you can't communicate what you're. But you can see the big picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She was so far ahead though. But anyway.
Yeah, no, just genius level. But yeah, no, I'm for sure a visual person, so I have a harder time. Like, I actually can't retain information. People always ask me, like, I've actually had people kind of, I don't want to say accuse because that sounds mean, but like they say, oh, you got this from this YouTuber who did this video on this. And I'm like, I love YouTube. I watch people, but I don't usually watch Disney history on there necessarily unless it's just a straight up clip of like something that happened long ago, because I can't retain information if I'm just watching it. I have to read it. So I learn from books. Like books are my thing. I read. I'm a reader, because if I read the words, I'll retain it and then I'll be able to tell people things. But if I just watch somebody say it, I can't remember it at all. It's very frustrating for me, actually. Very frustrating, because there's some great videos on there. So
Yeah, I mean, there is some really, really good history on there. But you know what? If you actively took notes, you'd probably retain it better, because then you'd be seeing the words written.
Yeah, I could. But I also don't want to be like, I don't want there to be any risk of me like taking somebody else's content and like, using it.
Yeah,
so I
but
just
it
don't
wouldn't
go there.
It wouldn't be like a person. It'd be probably more of like a documentary that you'd be paying attention to, rather
And I
than
do
like
watch
somebody's
those,
opinionated portrayal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
I don't
that's
usually watch
more
those ones.
source based. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's like an original primary source of like, this is watching Walt Disney talk about this thing, like I'm there, like that, I'll do that. But, and I didn't mention this book, but I should. This, for all of us talking about Disneyland, the Disneyland Story is really one of my favorite reads about Disney history, for Disneyland specifically. This one's by Sam Genneway, and
That's cool.
It's kind of published by the same people who do like the unofficial guides, like touring plans, I think. But this one, honestly, is like, I'm trying to remember where it ends. It's probably early 2000s, I think. But it's very highly referenced primary sources. So this is a great one if you're interested in Disney history.
I always like someplace that has really, really good reference points will help lead you to some really great primary sources. And then you can make your own inferences. So that's always good. I always would find a really good secondary that would lead me to a lot of really good primary.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's pretty much, giving away all my secrets, but I do that a lot.
And on here, everybody's talking like how you learn. There's a retention chart, and I remember like one of them was like 90% retention is when you teach it to somebody. Even if you don't have like a full fluency, when you teach, you have a tendency to learn better. So like when everybody's like minds were blown when I was talking about beer, that's because I had done so many beer schools and beer dinners and educating staff. I used to do these beer 101 classes for our entire distributor of like 85 people. I would get up and do presentations and organize tasting. So like it's just a fluency from teaching others that made me know more. And in fact, this show allows me to retain more. And then during live streams, I can like geek out and be like, oh, remember this little thing?
Yeah, same. And I mean, that's for me, for the content that I make too, for TikTok, Instagram, and whatnot. It's like, having the thanks, Rhonda. I knew it was Rhonda before I even said anything. Thanks, Rhonda. I know making those really helps me retain it, because not only am I like making all the footage and thinking about the script that I'm like writing in my head, and then I'm doing the voiceover work, and so I'm saying it like multiple times to myself, and then I'm teaching it to everybody else. So it absolutely helps a lot, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
To teach it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I think, now that we've bantered for 20 minutes, we should probably end the show.
Probably, yes. I think it's time.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for everybody chilling, hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend with the people that matter to you most, doing the things that you enjoy the most. And thank you for hanging out with us, learning a little bit about Pinocchio's Daring Journey here on Distory with Kate, the Disney Cicerone, and me, Kirk, from Walrus Carp.
I hope you have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.